Okay guys, so before you start the video, be sure to go to my channel and press subscribe. We've got a 250 subscriber goal to hit by the end of August, and I appreciate every single one of you who went over and subscribed. With that being said, let's get right into the video. Enjoy.
Welcome to my research facility.
There are three main classes in Exoprimal. Each has their own strengths, weaknesses, and specific types of abilities. There's actually a lot of build crafts to be had in Exoprimal, but it's not as much in its individual exosuits, it's in team composition. Each of the three classes plays totally differently and rewards a vastly different playstyle. So, which of these classes is right for you? Let's go into each of these three classes, the exosuits within them, and see how each one plays. Remember to subscribe and let me know down in the comments below which exosuit class you play the most.
War game transitioning to infinite repetition. Humans.
The first of the three classes in Exoprimal is the Assault class. There are four exosuits that fit into this class, but before we get into those, let's have a look at the role Assault classes play in the war games to see if the Assault class would be the right pick for you. So, the Assault class. This class is quite self-explanatory, as their primary role is dishing out vast amounts of damage. These classes are particularly good at dealing with the bigger enemies and other players, as opposed to massive crowds of raptors. This is because the abilities given to Assault classes focus mainly on dealing a lot of damage to a specific enemy, or a smaller group of enemies. Examples of this are Deadeye's Rifle Grenade, or Vigilant's Railgun ability that deals an enormous amount of damage in a straight line. All in all, these classes suit players that enjoy playing an aggressive role on the battlefield, and don't mind taking too much damage, as Assault exosuits are typically low on health and high in dexterity. A good squad will reward Assault classes in their aggressive attack style by backing them up with proactive healers such as Witch Doctor or Skywave, as they need proper support to avoid having to fall back regularly. The best rigs to equip an Assault class with are the Cannon, to quickly dispatch Pteranodons, the Catapult, to leap out of dangerous situations, and the Blade, to stun crowds of enemies and deal large amounts of damage. You could also run a Drill Fist loadout, but the issue with Drill Fist is that Assault classes are too lacking in the health department to be able to lose its charging ability without having full health first. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get to the different mechs in this class. First up is Deadeye, the easiest exosuit to pick up and play if you've played games such as Fortnite or Call of Duty. Deadeye is the most conventional of all the exosuits, and is incredibly useful for several reasons. His abilities make him a good all-rounder for anyone to pick up and play, and he's a nimble character, while not lacking too much in the health departments. All in all, Deadeye is a solid choice for anyone looking to deal damage, but he's especially effective when it comes to tackling other players in PvP. His main weapon is a rifle, which can deal focused damage and be buffed to deal more damage with more consecutive hits. His abilities are a Rifle Grenade, a Dodge Roll, which can be upgraded to reload your weapon, and a Stun Grenade that can also deal a fair amount of damage. These precise abilities favour those who have good aim and aggressive playstyle, and players who enjoy playing the offensive against other players. I've had several clutch matches through playing Deadeye, as his abilities, especially his ultimate, which releases a barrage of missiles and gunfire onto your opponents, have the capabilities to wipe out entire teams. Next up, Zephyr. Zephyr is a complicated one. Their abilities aren't hard to use, but they require you to play hit and run almost all the time. Don't play Zephyr if you're the type of player that will get trapped into corners, as Zephyr's low health pool won't survive long in a crowd of dinosaurs. This melee-focused exosuit deals a significant amount of damage if you can get them up close, but they're more suited to deal with Stegosauruses and Triceratops rather than T-Rexes or crowds of raptors. Zephyr's abilities can definitely deal with crowds, as their jump kick, shove or teleport help them to maintain large groups, before dashing quickly out again. All in all, Zephyr is definitely the weaker choice of all the melee exosuits in Exoprimal, as their low health and armour will leave you marooned in crowds of enemies with no way to deal with a massive amount of damage without your ultimate. Players who will do best with Zephyr are those who are willing to take risks, play aggressively, and are very aware of their abilities and control scheme, and therefore able to take advantage of Zephyr's speed. On to the next suit in the Assault class, Barrage. If you read almost any Exoprimal Exosuit ranking, Barrage is almost always at the top of the list. Why? Because he is indisputably one of the best, if not the best, although not the most interesting. Barrage is great at fighting big groups due to his grenades, he's great at fighting large dinosaurs due to his fire mines and his ultimate, and he's great at fighting other players due to his grenades doing a hell of a lot of damage. He's good at so much that it's actually easier to name the things he's not good at. Number 1 on that list is dealing with pterodons. Grenades have never been the best weapon in the world to deal with anything that requires accuracy, and Barrage is another example of that. Number 2 is that when Barrage is stuck in a pinch, he can be overwhelmed without support due to his slow reload time and relatively low ammo count. That's it really. Barrage is pretty much a key player in every game he's in, and you regularly see him as MVP, because he's capable of dealing a monstrous amount of damage. Play Barrage if you're looking for a reliable damage dealer and aren't bothered by low accuracy or health. You'll need to be able to dance around a bit in order to reload and escape tough situations, so I'd recommend this suit to someone who's already gotten to grips with the game and is looking for a more crowd control based exo. Last in the Assault class, and most definitely least, is the Sniper, Vigilant. What's the easiest way to say this? Vigilant isn't great, but he's not bad because of his kit. He's bad because his kit just doesn't suit the game he's in. Exoprimal is all about getting up close and personal with dinosaurs and taking them out with crowd controlling abilities and huge satisfying explosions. It's also a game about healing your teammates and defending the more vulnerable ones from attack. Vigilant doesn't fulfill any of those roles. In fact, he barely fulfills the one role he's supposed to fulfill, being a damage dealer to the bigger dinosaurs. The one and only time where Vigilant works is when he's at a good vantage point with a massive dinosaur in the perfect place for him to strike. Apart from that, I discourage you from playing Vigilant. He's far too situational, and those situations are few and far between. With that, let's move on to the next category of exosuits in Exoprimal, the tank class. The tank class in Exoprimal is probably the hardest to play effectively. Your role is to protect your team from harm, but also dealing enough damage to warrant your space on the team and defending the fragile healers from enemies. It's a lot to do all at once, so I'd recommend that you try to play an assault class such as Deadeye or a support class such as Witch Doctor before jumping into the tank class. The 3 exosuits in this class are all viable options, with each having a unique approach to how they defend the team. The abilities given to the tank class can vary wildly, as each defends their team in a totally different way. For example, Roadblock has a shield ability in order to be a physical block that pushes back a tide of enemies, meaning he's incredibly effective in close combat environments that involve corridors. Kiga, on the other hand, is far better at defending objectives that have enemies rushing at it from all angles, as his shield bubble ability is effective at keeping more enemies at bay, albeit not for as long as Roadblock. Tank exos also deal a fair amount of damage, but most of them are less directly damage dealers and more crowd controllers, as their abilities are good at stunning or pushing back crowds rather than straight up killing them. With that being said, let's go into each exosuit in the tank class individually and sort through their strengths and weaknesses, beginning with Roadblock. Remember Reinhardt from Overwatch? Roadblock is essentially a similar version, with some tweaks and no hammer. The main selling point Roadblock has is its shield, which can play an instrumental role in dictating the pace of the game, especially when you reach the PvP final stage. Paired with abilities that prioritise larger dinosaurs and crowd control, Roadblock is an excellent choice for people that want to get stuck into the tank class with an easy to understand, pick up and play skill set. Roadblock's massive health, heavy damage punches, shield bash ability and tornado ultimate make it the perfect fit for anyone who wants to play aggressively while being able to guard at moving points. Its ability to distract large dinosaurs is also incredibly useful, as drawing a larger dinosaur away from an objective is a good way to utilise Roadblock's shield abilities in a more directly defensive way. All in all, I'd heavily recommend Roadblock for a leaping point into the tank class. Just make sure that you don't get overwhelmed by large groups, as it's far too easy to get distracted by shielding and not notice you're being surrounded. Next is Kiga. Think of a game that has a tank class, and you'll undoubtedly find something that looks a lot like Kiga. Kiga is your run-of-the-mill tank, with a minigun that does low damage with a high fire rate, and a bubble shield that defends your team for a brief period of time from all angles. Kiga also has access to rockets, and a decent enough ultimate. Kiga is a good pick for anyone looking to play tank. He's like the Deadeye of the class, in the way that he does everything well, but the one or two things that he does very well are highly beneficial to your team. The one weakness that Kiga does have is that he's very good as part of a team, but he's not a huge amount of use on his own against a large dinosaur, as his damage output simply isn't high enough to put much of a dent in, say, a T-Rex. Kiga is best played as a defensive machine, and he serves that role extremely well. Play Kiga if you're looking for a more rounded defensive role, and if you're looking to defend areas rather than moving points. His playstyle rewards more conservative play, as you don't want to be charged into a swarm with Kiga. He's much better at staying back and utilising his missiles and minigun from a distance. Overall, a solid choice. On to the last of the tank class, Murasami. Murasami is a genuinely interesting exosuit. It seems like an odd choice for a tank role, as it doesn't really possess any blocking abilities that benefit the rest of the team, and isn't effectively played by sitting on a point and playing guard. That's because Murasami is useful for one thing, and mainly that one thing only: large dinosaurs. Murasami's kit excels at dealing with bigger threats, and that's not to say that it can't also deal with smaller ones. It's just built and bred to take on bigger threats one-on-one. Its circular slash ability distracts and taunts the large dinos, and from there Murasami is able to counter and deal massive damage, flip an attack with its grapple, and deal a huge amount of damage with its ultimates. This strategy also works really well with the enemy team, as the same counter, block and flip strategy turns Murasami into a whirling damage machine that's difficult to land a hit on. One problem with it is it's a difficult one to play for sure. You need a very firm grasp of the basics, as well as knowledge of how all the large dinosaurs attack in order to be at your most effective. Murasami awards an aggressive player that's willing to take risks, and also players that are willing to let the team do the bulk of the smaller dinosaur killing while they focus on the bigger threats. Murasami is effectively a trump card that can easily neuter the opposing team's dominator, and that is a truly useful skill indeed. That's it for the tank class, so let's move on to our final class, Exoprimal, the support class. The support class, otherwise known as the healer class, is probably the most essential class in Exoprimal. Each team can probably get by with only having one healer if they're good enough, but a team with no healer stands no chance. It's generally where the importance of the tank class comes in as well, as they're needed to protect the often glass-like healers as they step in to make sure the team's less armoured soul class can deal damage effectively. Healers are generally equipped with a weapon that can do damage and heal, but the damage is mainly low, and mainly useful to stun enemies. There is of course an exception to this, but generally this is the rule. Assault class Exos have a wide range of healing techniques depending on who you choose, an effective dodge ability, and a couple of abilities that heal a wider area. Healers will also often appear on the MVP board, as they generally have the highest scores of any character, and that's due to healing rewarding score more than kills. It's definitely the best way to build up XP, and a good way to get into Exoprimal if your aiming isn't the best, or if you don't feel like being an aggressive player. With that being said, let's get into the individual exosuits in this class, and see who suits who. Starting off with Witch Doctor, I'd say that this is by far the best purely effective healer in the support class. By that, I mean that if you had to choose a single exosuit of the support class to use as your one and only healer, Witch Doctor is without a doubt the best choice. The others are still valid choices due to their other abilities, but as a healer alone, Witch Doctor is the one to beat. It has several useful healing abilities, including a large AoE healing circle and a staff that can heal a single squad member almost to full with one use. It has a dodge ability that can be used to double jump and glide your way out of trouble, and its ultimate is a mass burst of healing that's extremely useful in a pinch. Its healing classes go. Witch Doctor is a decently complete package, apart from its weakness and speed. There's got to be some downsides to a hail of upsides after all. Play Witch Doctor if you prefer to stay on the sidelines healing, and are capable and brave enough to risk yourself to heal other teammates. Witch Doctor is also a great revive merchant, so there's that as well. Next up, Skywave. Skywave is an interesting support character. As well as the basic healing capabilities, there's a focus on enemy control and manipulation. Skywave is also the most adept at healing from a distance, while also staying away from enemies, as it can fly for a limited time. That can actually be made infinite, since the ability recharges so quickly. Because of this, Skywave suits players that are able to make use of its movement abilities and have aim that's good enough to heal players from a distance. Among Skywave's other abilities, however, are a knockback sound wave that also heals teammates, a black hole that sucks in dinosaurs and traps them in a small area, and an ultimate that stops time for a brief duration in a small AoE. This is why I'd only recommend Skywave to those that are capable of being alert to possible threats, as well as concurrent ones. For instance, when its teammates are about to be overwhelmed, or threatened to be overwhelmed, Skywave can be an incredible clutch and heal character, with map manipulation abilities like no other. Only experienced players should try to main Skywave, as without its area manipulation skills, Skywave is just a slightly underwhelming healer since it lacks an AoE healing move, so it lags behind Witch Doctor in its healing effectiveness. Use Skywave well, however, and it becomes the best support character in the game. Lastly, we have Nimbus. Nimbus is kind of like the Moira of Exoprimal. You know those matches of Overwatch, where one of the healer spaces is taken up by a Moira that has zero healing, goes totally Assault Class V2, and dies all the time? If you don't play Nimbus right, this is exactly what your matches of Exoprimal will feel like to your teammates. Nimbus is a dual support damage dealer exosuit that is able to heal rapidly while switching weapons and dealing damage to opponents. It has the ability to teleport short distances, deal a large amount of damage as an ability that's on a short recharge, and simultaneously heal and damage with its ultimate. Nimbus is great fun to play, but I've got to stress to all of you that are considering playing it, remember that you're also supposed to be a healer, so don't forget to switch back to healing mode regularly. I'd say that the best way to play Nimbus is to switch rapidly between healing and damage modes, using the ability switch button instead of a reload button in order to flip-flop back and forth between modes. It keeps your fellow attacking teammates healed up, while also allowing you to damage and spam your damage dealing ability. Players who want to play Nimbus should be ready to be on the ball a lot, and should also be prepared to fall back in order to heal, without totally abandoning the front lines. Nimbus is at its best when used as both healer and damage dealer, as it's slightly weaker when compared to purists of either role. Flexibility and fluidity are Nimbus's true strengths. So, that's all the classes in the exosuits of Exoprimal. Which ones do you use? Or, if you plan to pick it up, which one appeals to you the most? Let me know down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.